Okay, we are back, I think. Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us again for another episode of On the Couch with My Food Religion. Today, I am joined by Diana from Frontier Pets. I actually was introduced to this brand. I was influenced by a girlfriend of mine, Aurora, over in WA, who's been using this brand for her very fussy little chihuahuas for a while. And I have got a very fussy cavoodle. And I've pretty much tried every type of food, and he just refuses everything. He will not eat for days until he's just that hungry he'll eat it. Anyway, I've tried pretty much every grain-free food on the market. Wouldn't eat it. Anyway, I saw Aurora was posting about Frontier Pets, and I thought, oh, if she's posting about it, I know it's good quality. So I ordered some. Massive hit. Brown was beside himself, so excited. So we've been using it ever since. So thank you, Diana, for creating something that my dog will actually eat.
Oh, look, you're most welcome. I actually have 2 bull terriers.
Right.
And they eat anything. So, and I've had bull terriers for decades. And so I've never had a dog that's been fussy. So it's never, I always thought all dogs ate everything. And we have a huge cavoodle following. And the number of people that say, thank God, because my dog just doesn't eat anything. And it must be so frustrating to be in that position. So look, you're welcome. I didn't design it so your cavoodle would eat, but hey, it's great.
It's actually such a relief to have a product that is not only super palatable for them, but is actually really high quality, which I think is so important. But anyway, could we please start with you introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about who you are and what your background is?
Sure. So, as you said, my name's Diana Scott and I'm the founder of Frontier Pets. My background is not in animal nutrition, I hate to say. I'm actually a marketing and advertising girl. That's been my sole background. But I do have a very keen love of the environment and sustainability and free range and organic, and I choose to eat that way and to live as sustainably as I can. And so you think, oh, well, why on earth would I get into the pet food business? But hopefully when I explain it to you, it'll make perfect sense. So just like a lot of people, you eat well, you read labels, we're becoming extremely conscious of what we eat, and we're reading labels now. And for whatever reason, I'm about to pour this dry, disgusting mess into my dog's bowls. I've had dogs forever, and I thought, this doesn't look fabulous. And then I had a look at the ingredients, and this is probably nearly 10 years ago now, and I saw there was a lot of grain in there, and I thought, should dogs, I can't imagine, little Rufus running around the paddock,
grind eating a mortar and pestle.
Grain, give me grain, give me wheat. Anyway, so I thought, no, I need to be feeding my pets the same kind of food that I eat, the same values, all that kind of thing. So I actually did some research, and I went to an animal nutritionist and said, what should I feed? She said, you need to feed raw because it's biologically appropriate. They don't walk around with barbecues, and definitely no grain. And then she gave me kind of this recipe. So I then spent the next year probably spending all day Sunday chopping up all of these ingredients. And dogs eat offal. They eat the intestines of animals. And it's not a pleasant...
We should eat offal as well.
I'll eat a kidney and a liver thing, but spleen, I've got to draw the line somewhere.
I'll do kidney, I'll do heart. I draw the line at brains or spleen.
Oh, no. But so, look. But you can't get half of the ingredients you need. She said to me, look, they're scavengers, they eat eggs, they eat the partially digested contents of the stomach. So you've got to chop up your fruit and vegetables. And so anyway, she gave me this recipe. And after about 17 Sundays, I went, screw this. I've got better things to do my Sunday. So I went back to her and I said, surely there's a better way. And she said, look, you've either got to buy raw. I could see your doggy just running in the background.
Brown.
Brown. Might be something good.
Hopefully.
So I went back to her and said, what else is there? And she said, there isn't. You've got to do it raw, takes up all your freezer space, all that kind of stuff. And I thought, no, there's got to be a better reason. At the same time, I'm really heavily into anti-factory farming. It's my big thing. It's a big thing. Not get animals out of cages. It's I've read a lot about it. It's just it's unnecessary. Obviously, it's cruel, but it's also destroying the planet. And so at the same time, I'm thinking, apart from humans, animals, our companion animals, are the biggest consumers of industrialised products on the planet. So there we are with this should feed raw, and that our pets are eating the offcuts of these poor animals that have lived in misery. And I thought, this is what I'm going to do. So I went back to this animal nutritionist and I said, I want to make a food that contains only 100% ethically sourced ingredients, and I want it to be really easy to serve and prepare. And I did research and I said I found this thing called freeze drying, which is not a new technology. It's been around for a long time. Yeah. Bloody expensive, so let me tell you.
Yeah.
But I'll get into freeze drying later. So I said, this is what I'm going to do. And I sat in my study. I was on the Gold Coast at the time. I sat in my study and I did a business case and all that, because that's my background. And within a year, our business had gone from nothing to millions. It was just amazing. And it was, everybody feels the same way. And so what Frontier Pets does, so we've got free-range chicken, free-range pork, free-range beef, and we're about to launch a fish product, and we're about to launch a cat product as well. And the offal, everything comes from the same free-range animal. So there's no compromise. It's absolutely perfect food. And the freeze-drying, all that does is take the moisture out, so you end up with a dry product. And then when you feed, as you know, you just add the water back into it. So you're feeding a raw food, but that's dry and can sit in your cupboard for years without going off. And as soon as you add the water, it smells amazing and all that kind of thing. And we're supporting the ethical farming community. So, gosh, I hope you didn't want a 1-minute answer, because that's a lot.
That's amazing. And I also love that it's reducing waste as well, because you're using nose to tail. You're not just,
that's right.
There's so many people now who are becoming more conscious about eating, well-sourced, organic, free-range animals that have been living the way they're supposed to live, because we are what we eat, but we are what we ate. So whatever that cow ate, we are also that. So if that cow's been soy and corn and all manner of shit that cows are not supposed to eat, it's not an animal. So how do we expect to be healthy from not eating an animal that was healthy?
I was actually having a conversation with someone the other day. It's an amazing statistic, is that a lot of people think that beef cattle are free range, and they're not. They live in feedlots, and it's horrible. It's horrible. Any cow, in any 100-day period, your feedlot cows will consume 25 kilograms of antibiotics. For every 100 days, 25 kilograms of antibiotics. We eat that. I don't go eat free range. We eat that, and then we wonder why we're immune to antibiotics. It's just, and they just gift it to them. They have to, because they're all in these cramped conditions. So we are what we eat, and we are what we eat, what they eat. Exactly.
Yeah, and these animals aren't being exposed to vitamin D from the sun that they need, like what we need. They're not eating grass and the bugs that are on the grass, and getting all those natural soil-based probiotics in their guts and all that sort of jazz as well. So I love that you guys are using nose to tail as well, that you're incorporating all of those organ meats in there as well, because let's be honest, they're the most nutrient-dense parts of the animal.
Yes.
Think about how our great-grandparents would have eaten.
I know.
They wouldn't have just gotten the skinless, boneless chicken breasts.
No.
They gotten the whole bird with all of the organs. They would have made pate out of the liver. They would have chopped up all the rest of it, probably put it in some sort of stew, or like mixed it into burger patties. They would have eaten that whole beef, and then they would have kept the bones, made broth so they could make soup, all that sort of stuff. Yep. That's how we're supposed to eat. We're supposed to eat the whole animal, because every part has all of these different nutrients. You know, like liver is the most bioavailable source of heme iron on the planet.
Yes.
Yet people are taking shitty, poorly absorbed iron tablets and wondering why they're getting constipated and why their iron is improving. Whereas if they just incorporated liver a couple of times a week, they probably wouldn't have a problem.
Yep, absolutely. And it actually, it's quite extraordinary when you see the difference in a dog that goes from a dry kibble, a $5 Coles dry kibble, to Frontier Pet Food. We've had dogs, I mean, this is anecdotally, people have told us this, that, you know, you've got dogs that had trouble with their eyes and had to go to, you know, a dog ophthalmologist or whatever you call them, which would not be cheap, to get, you know, drops and all that kind of thing put in their eyes, and they don't have the problem anymore. And I joke with them, I say it's like the blind, we make the blind see again, and I call it the Jesus principle. But it's not, it's because they're eating what they should be eating, and they're getting the nutrients that they should get. And it's so straightforward. And you know, your big pet food manufacturing kibble companies will tell you that it's got all the nutrients in there, and it might, but it comes out of a test tube.
Yeah, and they're synthetic. They're synthetic versions of the vitamins, because let's be honest, wheat, corn, grain, soy doesn't have all of the essential vitamins and minerals that you get from a whole animal, fresh fruit and veggies.
No, of course not. And they're not supposed to eat it. A dog cannot, and I keep saying dog, not cat, because I haven't got the cat food out yet, so I don't know enough about them. But, you know, a dog cannot, just simply cannot digest complex carbohydrates. They can't do it. They're not designed to do it. So they're going to get fat. Surprise, surprise. We have an obesity problem with our pets. And another extraordinary statistic is that 1 in 3 of your pets, 1 in 3 will get cancer. 1 in 3. Now that wasn't even heard of 60 years ago. It just wasn't the problem. They didn't have digestive issues. They didn't have skin, you know, the skin that they want to peel off their bodies because they're so itchy. It didn't happen.
Yeah,
you know, they were better off when we fed them scraps from the table.
Yeah, and the amount of skin conditions in dogs these days is ridiculous. The amount of dogs that are on, you know, steroid creams and all medicated washes and all that sort of stuff, because they're eating all of these super inflammatory grains.
Yeah.
You know, you look at people who have, you know, eczema, dermatitis, all those sorts of things. All of these inflammatory foods are going to flare up their dermatitis as well. The same thing happens to animals.
Yep.
What I would love to ask you, because I think this is super, super interesting. I follow this amazing holistic dentist called Dr. Stephen Lin, and his whole philosophy around dentistry is not just give everybody fluoride and like rip everyone's teeth out because, you know, your mouth's crowded. His whole thing is if you eat well while you're pregnant and provide all the right nutrients for your kids, and you give them the right foods and they actually chew their food. You're not just giving a kid puree for the first 4 years of its life. Right. They will develop these beautiful, big, wide jaws that have enough room for their teeth. They won't get cavities if they're not eating highly processed carbohydrates all of the time. You know, we're not supposed to have, you know, highly processed carbohydrates for every meal. We're supposed to eat fruit, veggies, good quality nuts, seeds, meats, grain, good quality fats.
Yes.
And so he's super interesting. I know that lots of dogs end up with a lot of plaque on their teeth, and a lot of pet food companies will tell you that they need that hard kibble to get plaque on their teeth.
No. Well, it's absolute crap. Yeah. So, and asking one of the, is that your doggy that you're getting? Yeah. Come on, dog. Oh my God.
Hey.
Oh, you're divine. As I said, I've got bull terriers. I've got dogs that have a face only a mother can love.
I love bull terriers though. I think they're so cute, especially when they're puppies.
Oh, they're the cutest puppy on the planet. But that's very, very, very cute. Oh,
it's like
you've taken the limelight. No. So in exactly the same way as you're talking about processed foods.
Yeah.
So you can eat a crunchy McNugget. It's not going to clean your teeth. It's going to cause damage because it's a heavily processed food. So what kibble does is it's heavily processed. It actually gets stuck in the teeth, and because it's a processed food, it will cause decay. We get this all the time. But your food's soft. But your food's our food, frontier pet food, will not clear up plaque, but it won't cause it in the first place because it's a health. It's like eating a salad versus a hamburger. So they're very different. The only thing that will clean a dog's teeth is bone.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you can get those things you can put on your finger and you can do it yourself. But bone. So they get the calcium from the bone anyway. So there's two kinds of bones. And it depends on your dog too. If you get a chicken bone, a chicken carcass, obviously when I talk about bones, I talk about raw bones, not cooked bones. So you can get the chicken carcass, which Brown would eat, but eat quite quickly.
Yeah.
What is it? It's a he, your ducky?
He is a brown.
He's a brown. I just wanted to double check. You get him a meaty bone, a raw meaty bone, and then they eat that, and that's what gets rid of the plaque. So no, it's the biggest thing that we get asked all the time, and it's for exactly the same reason as your dentist was saying. If you eat well, your teeth won't rot. Kibble does not clean teeth. No.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what led to going down the path of freeze-dried food versus, you can buy like raw food, but it's like frozen or packaged, or why the difference with the freeze drying?
Because I wanted something that was easy, and I wanted something that was always going to be fresh. So when you buy your there's no free range frozen food range out there. I'm the only company that I know of that has free range food.
Yeah.
So if you buy frozen patties and things like that, great, it's raw food, but it takes up all of your freezer space. You may forget to take it out and defrost it. If you do take it out and defrost it and you leave it, especially in the Australian summer, you can get microbes and problems, especially with chicken. Yeah. So what we've done, what freeze drying does, is when it takes out the moisture, it's a very, very, very clever machine. It should be for how much it costs, but it just literally removes the water. So all of the calories remain in the little pellets, but there's no water content, and importantly, there's no water activity. Water activity creates, bacteria live in water. So anything under 0.6% water activity, nothing, bacteria won't live in it. Our freeze-dried food is 0.0001.
Right.
It cannot go off, cannot. So you've got all of the benefits, and when you add the water, you end up with this exactly like spaghetti bolognese or whatever. Yeah, bolognese part. So you've got all of the benefits of having the raw food, but you just store it in your cupboard. It has a shelf life for a couple of years. It cannot go off. Yeah. So you haven't got that problem with potentially feeding your pet food that's gone off that you don't necessarily know about. Our food in particular too is all human grade. So it's already gone through all of those, HACCP processes before it even gets to us. And then we process it in a very cold environment. So it's very safe. It's a very safe, convenient, easy way to feed raw food.
You know what I actually really love about it? It's so light. Like, bag is so light, which is so great for when you take it. We often will take Brown out on the boat with us, and having to lug a big thing of heavy food, it's so light. Even when it comes in the post, when I get my order in the mail, it's not like I'm trying to lug like 12 kilos stairs. It's like, oh no, this is great. This is so light.
Yes, it is. It is good because one kilo of dry food will reconstitute to 4 kilos. And when you've got a big dog, you will go through, I used to go to the pet store and get 12 kilos of food. So, and yes, I needed to get someone to help me to put it in the back of the ute. Whereas now what you would do, of course, is you'd buy 2.8 kilos of Frontier pet food, which is very easy to handle, and that's your 12 kilos of food. So, yes.
Yeah. And much easier to store as well.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Absolutely. In the cupboard. People love it for traveling, for caravans, or for that kind of reason. It has, I liked the whole concept of freeze drying, and I like the fact that all of the nutrition remains intact. And the best analogy I can use is you can get dehydrated food, and that's fine too. But if you had a grape and you put a grape into a dehydrator, you will get a sultana. You put a grape and you put the grape into a freeze dryer, you get a dry grape. Everything is maintained, and so when you add the water, of course, you get the grape back. And freeze dried fruit, by the way, is amazing. If you ever get a chance to eat it, it's amazing, and it tastes exactly the same. So if you ate a freeze dried grape, it tastes exactly the same as a grape. So that's why I like it.
Freeze dried strawberries, and I'm sold.
Oh, they're just amazing thing. They're just amazing. So it's so nutritionally rich. I mean, NASA use it for their astronauts, for goodness sake, for that reason. They just hikers, all that kind of thing. So it's a clever, good way of making sure that all of the nutrients remain, as I said, remain intact. Yeah. So it's exactly like feeding a fresh meal each time. And because you add warm water, they get a nice warm meal as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't have to add water to it, do you?
No. The calories are in the dry ingredients.
Yeah.
So all of the calories are in there. But dogs don't eat, a lot of dogs don't drink as much water as they should. So it is good to add the water, and it also fills them up. So if you do feed dry, it's very, very important to have the water as much water as possible. But if you've got a dog that has pancreatitis or suffers from something like that, you cannot feed it dry, because all of the nutrition, but everything else is condensed like a cordial. So your fat content, one of the big things I have to explain to people is that our fat content is high. It needs to be high. That's where the energy comes from, and it's good fat.
Yeah.
But if you're feeding dry pellets to a dog with pancreatitis, they're getting 30% fat as opposed to 8% fat, which they get when they put the water back in. So very important to be aware of that, and it makes the dog drink, because the water, of course, is just like gravy, and it's got all the flavour of all the
absolutely. Oh, it's honestly, it's such a great product. And do you source all of your ingredients in Australia?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Our chicken comes from WA, and our eggs come from Queensland, from Sunny Queen, from Queensland. Our pork comes quite locally, comes from Bangalore, and our beef comes from everywhere, but mainly Victoria and New South Wales. Our fruit and veg comes from New South Wales and Queensland.
That's awesome. It's so nice to see locally supported business, because I think so much, particularly when you look at pet food, it's all imported. It's all imported from Europe or the US, and God, we know how their animals are treated, like particularly the US. I mean, if we think factory farming isn't great here, over there it is so much worse.
It's shocking.
Yeah, absolutely. So great to know that we're supporting Australian industry, supporting local farmers as well.
Yes, definitely.
We know our produce is such great quality as well.
Yeah, it is. And we've been selling for 4 years. So I actually got a little note the other day saying, "Hey, congratulations, you've had an e-commerce site for 4 years." And during that time, we have contributed nearly $2.5 million toward the ethical farming community. And it's not just money that they would have got anyway. Like our fruit and vegetables, we get fruit and vegetables that are seconds. I eat them. I've just gone and raided. I needed some zucchini, so I went and raided our store. But when they're we get great big zucchinis and tiny, tiny sweet potatoes, which they find hard to sell in the supermarket, whereas I'll take them. So, and if they go to a certain period, they can't use them, so they just put them back into the ground. So we're actually creating the industry. And as you said, the top to tail part of it is really, really relevant, because if you've got a farmer, especially a free-range farmer, tends to go from farm to plate as opposed to farm to abattoir, and they say wave goodbye. A lot of the free-range farmers actually take it through. Now they can sell their eye fillets and their rump steaks and things to the supermarkets or the restaurants and whatever, and then they've got the trim, the bits that are left over, which are great, and we get those. So we can get like bucket loads of, sounds awful, but so we make it really easy for them. So instead of them having to say, okay, I'll make hamburgers or sausages, or value add that, we're saying, don't worry about all that. Yes. We'll pay you a fair price for you to give us our produce, because we don't care what it looks like, even though the pork, I got to tell you, the pork looks amazing. It looks like a Christmas dinner. It's amazing. It's just, they eat better than I do.
Bangalore pork is pretty special.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. And we get what's called an 85 trim, which means that it's 85% protein and 15% fat. And that's, as I said, dogs need fat.
Oh.
We all need fat. We all need good fats. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's so interesting. Do you only sell online, or do you sell into any retailers?
We sell 99% online. And we do have some resellers, but they're vets. So they're people that have come to us and said, can we sell your food because it's great and all that kind of thing. I'm pushing for direct. And the reason I do is because I want to know who my customer is, and I want to communicate with that person. So we get hundreds of emails a day from customers saying, I've got a cavoodle, or I'm about to get a puppy, or how much calcium does the food have, and all those things. And they just contact us and we answer straight away. What do you want to know? We answer. And even if there's dogs with health issues, to an extent we can answer those things. Whereas if you walked into a pet barn or you're going to be served by a 12-year-old who has no idea. Whereas our pets are our children, and it's so important, and we love them so much, and we don't want to just get this blanket advice. You want to be able to speak to the person that does this. We've got people that come here and they just want to see the manufacturing, and I'll go for it. Have a look at it. It's amazing. It's pristine. It's amazing. So I want to know my customers. We also do little things like, we know our customers' dogs' birthdays.
Yeah.
When the birthday comes, we send them a gift. We don't send them a discount coupon. We send a gift.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Brown. So I like that.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it a bit special too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And do people need to, because obviously marketing is a wonderful thing, but people have been told that they need a different food for when their dog is a puppy to when it's an adult to when it's a geriatric to when it's whatever. Do these animals need different things at different life stages with your food?
Okay, so there's only 2 stages. There's not, I'll explain. There's puppy, and the puppies range in ages. So a puppy between 1 and 4 months will need up to 3 times as much food as an adult of the same weight. And then between 5 and 12 months, it goes down to about twice as much, and then they become an adult. Then the only difference in when it's an adult is whether it's pregnant or not. That's it. There's no aging there. So what happens is that when a dog is a puppy, they need a higher amount of certain vitamins and minerals, just like babies do.
Yeah.
So they have a higher amount of calcium, phosphorus, vitamins and so on. So what we do is there's a compliance thing called AFCO, which is this is how much you've got to have of each of these different vitamins. I've got my own issues with AFCO, but we won't go into that now. So what I do is I make Frontier pet food for puppies. And then what happens is your adult dogs just get extra.
Yeah.
So when a pet food company says it's been designed for puppies, all they're doing is saying, so like a perfect example is a puppy needs 1.2% of the food to be calcium rated. An adult dog only needs 1%.
Yeah.
I make it 1.2% so that all dogs at all life stages can eat it. So that's all it is. It's a slight difference in nutrition. It's not the big mystery that people make it out to be. And you cannot also, this really makes me laugh, and having dog food for specific breeds is the biggest load of crap I have ever heard of in my life. They're all the same. And dogs were only domesticated 10,000 years ago. You know, they were not, they're still a wolf. I mean, I don't expect Brown or my dogs to go out and fell a deer, but heard its name, to go and fell a deer, obviously, but they have the same, nutritional requirements as that. So that's the only difference. A breeding dog, a pregnant bitch needs, a breeder should know what they need. They need extra stuff, but puppies just need extra vitamins, and in an ideal world, fed more regularly. So if you feed your dog twice a day, you'd feed a puppy 4 times a day, so that they get, because they're just going through it. So, and it's the first 12 months where they grow. After that, you hardly see anything. But the first 12 months, they've gone, chunk.
Unless you've got a Great Dane, and then they're and then they're still growing when they're 2.
That's right. Yeah. So there's nothing mystical, really, about it. But yes, they do need those extra vitamins and minerals. But we create it for puppies so that we can say it's for all dogs for all life stages.
Yeah, perfect. That's awesome. So before we finish up, was there anything else you wanted to let people know, talk to people about? I'll put all of the links below so that people can get to the website. There's plenty of info over on my Instagram about Frontier Pets as well, because obviously we feed it to Brown and we love it.
Yes.
But yes, is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Look, I think it's common sense. I mean, I'm not, when some people ring and say, oh, they can't afford Frontier, or they feel that they want to feed raw, that would be my big thing. Don't. It's not Frontier Pets or nothing. Feed raw. It's what makes sense, and that was the big thing that was drilled into me by our resident vet and animal nutritionist. So that one that I went to for all the information, she became, and she's still with us today, Dr. Kathy Cornet. So she's developed all the recipes with us, and she says to me all the time, she says, diet, what makes sense? So when you're reading a packet and you look at the ingredients and the first ingredient is wheat, does that make sense for your dog to eat that? No, it doesn't. Cooking your food, we have, again, a lot of people, they say, oh, I slightly steam my chicken for Bella. Why waste your time doing that? What would Bella have eaten? They eat raw, and they eat offal. They do not eat, I mean, obviously chocolate, we know that they don't eat, but don't feed them crap, because that will be a problem. So if you, and watch them as well. Look at them. You can under and overfeed a dog. Our feeding guide, for example, is a guide. That's what it is. It's a guide. It's a very good guide. I mean, we don't just pluck numbers out of the air. Yeah. But I have an 18-kilo mini bull terrier and a 34-kilo full-size bull terrier, and the difference in their meal size is marginal. Yeah. Because the little one runs around and does things, and the big one, got to kick him to get him up. So be aware of what they're doing, feel them. If they look fat, stop feeding them so much. You just think that they rely on us. They're a child. They rely on us. They've got no way of looking after themselves. And I often think that, when you consider, truly, when you consider that everything that our pets do give to us, the love, the wagging tail, the happiness, the very least that we can do in return is to give them the proper food. The very least. And and as of all people, it's the basis of everything.
Yeah.
What you eat is the basis of everything. So does it make sense? And treat your dog like you would if it was a child. Don't feed it McDonald's every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
There I am on my high horse.
No, I completely agree. And I think it is so important to make sure that we are, because I think so many people, particularly my community of people, are really conscious about what they're putting in their own body, what they're putting in their kid's body. And I just don't know that the thought process has extended to, hold on, what am I actually feeding my dog? Because what I'm actually feeding him at the moment is the equivalent of macaroni and cheese every day.
That's exactly right.
Would I feed my kid? No, I would not. So why would I feed it to my dog? And like you said, do whatever is right for you. And if something isn't in your budget right now, that doesn't mean that you can't just go, okay, well, I'm going to get raw food for my dog from now on because that's what's accessible. Or going to your local butcher and getting them to give you a whole pile of offal that's all mixed up.
Yes.
Adding that in there. Never let perfect get in the way of good. But there's, so many better choices that we can be making. But I love that Frontier Pets has created something that firstly is really supporting a wonderful cause with trying to end factory farming. It's supporting local Australian businesses. It's creating less waste by using nose to tail, using the ugly veggies that wouldn't have gotten sold in the fruit shop.
Yeah.
But I love that it's so easy. It's convenient. It's super lightweight.
Yes.
And from all accounts, Brown tells me it's very palatable, and he is so fussy. This dog is the absolute worst to try and feed. And he really, really likes it. So I'm actually very excited about the fish one because I feel like he will be really on board with that. We often take him on our boat, and he loves eating like raw prawn shells or bits
they do. They
carcass or any of that stuff.
Absolutely. Yes, we wanted a fish one because there are dogs with meat protein allergies, and dogs love fish. I'll feed my dogs fish all the time, and but fish are the most factory farmed animal. So people don't understand that. They think that it's just when something is sustainably fished, it means it's in the factory farm. So it just happens to be the factory farm's underwater. It doesn't mean they're not factory farm. So I had to find someone who's prepared to sell me fish that I knew were as free range as they can get. So that was a bit of the delay there. But we had it delivered yesterday. So.
And so what sort of fish are you using? Because I will often give Brown sardines. He often gets
what it is. That's what
perfect.
Yeah. So it's like a baked fish. So what we wanted was, it's funny because Dr. Kathy, our vet, she'll say, I want this, 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 and this. And I'm going, well, sometimes you can't get the things that you want. So we've managed to get an oily fish. So it's a mix of sardines and pilchards and so on. So they're generally bait fish.
Yep.
They're caught off the coast of Western Australia and they're caught off the beach. So they're netted, but they're on the beach under strict guidelines. So they're not out and they're not just trawling the seas, which is great. So they're getting massive amounts of calcium because everything goes in there. Yeah. The challenge with fish is that it's very low fat.
Yeah.
And so we do all of our testing. We do not. And there's nothing flippant about what we do. Everything is compliant. Our health and safety is outstanding, and we test everything. I've got lab tests the size of the old-fashioned phone books, and so we will test the fish, and if there's not enough fat in it, we're either going to have to just market it as it's going to be a lower fat type product, which means you have to feed a bit more of it. So we're always there's all these things that we're conscious of, but I wanted to make it single protein. So our chicken is single protein, and I want the fish to be single protein as well. So I don't want much.
Not much at all. But you know what? I think that's the great thing is that that's the difference, isn't there? You're not compromising on what it is that you want, that you think is the benchmark for health. And there's no easy way to get there, which is why this isn't going to be a $5 bag of food that you're going to get at Coles or Woolies, because it's like buying junk food. It's cheap for a reason, because it's crap.
Exactly. That's exactly right. I saw a bag of a very, very well-known brand that's supported by a very well-known vet, and it was $3 a kilo. And I thought, what is in that? What could possibly be nutritious about that it would be $3 a kilo? And the thing in Australia that we don't have is a very good recall system. So the pet industry in Australia is self-regulated, which means it's not regulated. So you can do practically anything. In America, they do have quite strict restrictions. And I was, the big brands, the Hills, the Royal Canin, they have recalls every month. It's constant. It kills dogs. The food kills dogs, and it's, creates all this, this horribleness. And you go, well, what are you feeding it? You're just feeding it this horrible stuff. Yeah. As you say, again, I get back down to that. Does it make sense? Yeah. If you're looking at something that costs $3 a kilo, you have to say, how could it be retailed for that? Which means the retailers only paid $1 because they make a fortune. It's been put in a bag. Someone's made it and put it in a bag for under $1 a kilo.
Yeah. Quality's got to be questionable there, doesn't it?
Oh, totally. I don't even want to know what's in it. Yeah.
I'm with you. Di, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today, and just to educate people a little bit more, because I think, like I said earlier, I think so many people who are in the community that I speak to are so conscious about their own health and the health of their family. And so many people have dogs that are like their other child. But sometimes that next step to what the hell am I feeding my dog hasn't actually been taken yet. So thank you for bringing some light to that and just helping to explain in a really simple way why it's actually important, and not just important for what we're feeding our own animal, but why it's important for the health and wellness of all of these animals that are being bred for food, which, is part of life, but it could be done in a more sustainable and humane way if we support it. And that only happens when we vote with our dollar.
That's exactly right. And people can and don't feel bad, people out there, that you're feeding kibble or whatever. I didn't know either. And it's only when you make that, as you say, you make that mental leap and you go, hang on a minute, and you question, and then you realise what you're doing. But people are becoming more educated, and I'll start to do a lot more on factory farming, because it's not just the animal welfare, it's destroying the planet. It's actually destroying the planet. So there's a lot of good reasons why we should be aware of this. And as you say, they are bred for food. I've been to the farms and I've spoken to farmers, and they've educated me on that. They said these animals are bred for food. They would not be alive. But as you say, there are ways of doing it where they've got a really decent, appropriate life. Chickens need to be out scratching around and stuff. Anyway, we know all this.
Yeah, and the whole vegetarian chicken. Chickens are not vegetarians.
No.
Like eggs, and they're from vegetarian chickens. Chickens aren't vegetarian. Why do you think that that's a good idea? These are not healthy chickens if they're vegetarian.
No.
Look, I think at the end of the day, when you know better, you can do better. And the more education we have around those sorts of things, the better. There's an amazing guy in the US called Joel Salatin, who is really pioneering the way for regenerative farming when it comes to breeding animals for food and regenerative agriculture. And he farms like all manner of animals, but he has like a chicken trailer that goes through the paddock, and the chickens free range and roam. Then they get in their trailer and they move off to the next paddock. The next thing that comes through is the cows, and then the cows come and they smush in all the chicken poo and they eat the grass, and then comes the pigs, and then that paddock is spelled until it regenerates, and then the crop might be able to grow there. Like it's it's this regenerative circle of life as things should be.
Yes.
But it's really putting back into the ecosystem. It's recreating the topsoil. It's making
Yep.
sure our earth is actually being regenerated, not
Yes.
just stripped all the time.
Just destroyed. And
Yeah.
it's it. And when you see that, I've been to a farm where they've circulated the pigs in a circle, and they even use the pigs. Pigs dig. That's why the rings in their noses to stop them. But free range pigs, they just dig. And what they do is they've used the pigs to dig up the earth, and then they move the pigs, and then they grow the stuff that feeds the pigs. It's just so simple, and it's so different to seeing this, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of acres that are being cleared to grow soy to feed the animals that don't eat soy. It's just bizarre.
It is bizarre. It is. Well, on that note, we will leave. Thank you so much, Di. Thank you for your time. And I'll make sure I put all the appropriate links in below so everyone can head on over and check it out.